We're going to continue a few problems from the same chapter 4, topic 7. We got a couple of examples here we're going to look at that kind of the same as what we did yesterday. This is day 2, so we're not learning a new topic here. We're just continuing on the work from before. So we're factoring quadratics, ax squared plus bx plus c, when a is not equal to 1. And all that means is that we cannot skip the grouping step. So first we will check for the GCF. Of course the GCF for this one is 1 because none of these have any factors in common, which means we can go directly into the x. Alright, now keep in mind my a is 5, my b is -9, my c is -2. So up top is going to be a times c, which is -10, and the bottom is going to be b, which is -9. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to the top number and add to the bottom number, and I'm looking for -10 and +1. -10 times 1 is -10, -10 plus 1 is -9. Now since a is 5 instead of 1, I have to actually go through and do the grouping, which means that I'm using these to split the middle term into two terms. So this will be 5x squared minus 10x plus x, or 1x, minus 2. Alright, so I'm going to group the first two terms together, plus, and I'm going to group the second two terms together. First two terms are 5x squared minus 10x. The second two terms are x and minus 2. And I'm going to factor the GCF out of each of these. Factor the GCF out of the first group, and factor the GCF out of the second group. GCF of the first group, 5 and 10, well 5 goes into both of those. And x squared and x, well x goes into both of those. For x and minus 2, they actually don't have anything in common, so 1 is what I'm going to factor out for there. So 5x is going to come out of the first group. 1 is going to come out of the second group. Alright, well how many times does 5 go into 5? Well, only one time. And x goes into x squared x times. So 5x squared divided by 5x is x. 5 goes into 10 2 times, and x goes into x 1 time. So I'm left with x minus 2. Well, if I'm factoring out a 1, this isn't actually changing because 1 goes into x times, and 1 goes into 2 times. Alright, well both of these have a factor in common. These are two terms that each have two factors, and they each have a factor in common. They each have x minus 2 in common. So if I factor out that x minus 2 that they have in common, then I will have 5x left for the first term and 1 left for the second term, the stuff that's in red. This would be my factored form. X minus 2, 5x plus 1. And this is my factored form for number 3. Of course, you can check this by using the distributive property, and it's just going to take you back to here, but you can check this using the distributive property, and I would highly recommend on a test that you do check this. Alright, I'll leave that for you to do. Number 4, it's in standard form. The GCF is, of course, 1. They don't have anything in common. So I can set up my x, which is going to allow me to split everything up. A is 15, B is 7, C is -2, whoops. C is -2, and this is 7. Up top I have A times C, which is -30. In the bottom I have b, which is +7. I'm looking for two numbers, multiply to -30, add to 7. Now this one's not so easy to figure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out all the numbers that multiply to give me 30. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. And actually I think I see it, but I'll keep going. 5 times 6, and that's all of them. Well, the only possible combination here that's going to add up to 7 is going to be 3 and 10. And I need to add these need to add up to positive 7. So I need positive 10 and negative 3. These will multiply to give me negative 30, and they will add to give me positive 7. Alright, so what this is going to allow me to do, it's going to allow me to split this middle term into two new terms, 10x and negative 3x. So I'm going to have 15x squared plus 10x from here, minus 3x from here, so that turns into this, and then minus 2. Alright, now factor by grouping. So I'm going to group the first two terms together, plus, I'm going to group the second two terms together. They're being added, it's not going to mess with anything, so I'm going to have 15x squared plus 10x in my first group, and negative 3x minus 2 in my second group. And I want to factor out the GCF of each group. GCF of the first group, well, these both have 5 in common, and they both have an x in common. The GCF of the second group, they don't have anything in common, so their GCF is 1. But since the first term is negative, you see this negative sign here, GCF's got to be negative 1. That's a little rule that we have to follow, just makes things work out nicer. Alright, so 5x is going to come out of the first group. Negative 1 is going to come out of the second group. What will we have left over when we factor it out? Well, we'll have 3x for the first term and 2 for the second term. And if I factor out a negative 1, that's essentially just going to change the signs here. So I'll have 3x plus 2 over here. Well, these are two terms that have two factors each, and they each have a factor in common. And that factor they have in common is 3x plus 2. So I can take that factor out, and what will I be left with? Well, I'll be left with 5x for the first term, and negative 1 for the second term. And here we go. I have my factors. So this would be the factored form of 15x squared plus 7x minus 2 factors into 3x plus 2, 5x minus 1. Alright, so day 2 homework is on the same worksheet from yesterday's. It's 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So 5 more problems for that.